Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Vacheron Constantin Overseas World Time Reference 7700V. You can see and you can purchase this stainless steel World Time sports timepiece on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see this third generation Vacheron Constantin Overseas in steel with world time complication and no fewer than 37 independent time zones respecting intervals as small as 15 minutes of variation. Now, the watch on my wrist wears easily. The Overseas has always been the most compact and wearable of the big three of luxury sports watches. Between the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, the Patek Philippe Nautilus, and the Overseas has always been the one that has the fewest quirks for those users who do have petite forearms. And you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and I'll back the camera out a little bit so you can get a bird's eye view, but the watch really wears quite easily. It could be worn on a smaller wrist. As you can see, my wrist is pushing the links of the bracelet out, so they could be pulled down even tighter, I believe down to a wrist size of about 14 centimeters in circumference. You could still wear this watch with security, and if the bracelet doesn't suit you, the watch also comes with a leather and a rubber accessory strap, so you have the choice of which one to wear and which one will fit best to suit your personal preferences. Now, the timepiece is broad at 43.5 millimeters across the round of the case, not including the crown, but it is flat. It's only about as thick as a Rolex Submariner. At 12.8 millimeters thick with a generously sloped flank and a Maltese cross motif conical bezel, this will slide not just underneath a suit jacket cuff, but also underneath the dress sleeve beneath that. From lug to lug, 51 millimeters is quite compact for a 43.5 round watch, although I will say that once you reach the limit of the flexibility of the bracelet, you can't push it in closer than approximately 55.9 millimeters. So if you want to wear it absolutely stranglehold on your wrist, you're going to want to use one of the straps. It doesn't have the ability to pull straight down that you would have known from the second generation Overseas bracelet. That said, it is a very, very comfortable watch. As you can see, the case back is flat and regular in its shape, has a little bit of a conical profile at the edges, but it sits comfortably on the wrist without any pressure points or hot spots. Many have asked me, does the quick release dig the wrist? No, it doesn't. There are two very low profile quick release pull tabs underneath that allow you to, for example, let me see if I can dig my diminished nail into this and show you how it works. But you just pull the release and then you remove the bracelet, and you can put the strap, either strap, in, or simply remove the bracelet for closer cleaning of the case. So whether you're obsessive compulsive or simply want to give yourself options, quite easy to remove the bracelet on this generation of the Overseas. Now you can still see the Maltese cross motif recurring at the center of the links. You'll also see that the standard of finish remains very, very high. There's that transitional bevel on the flank. You'll note down the center there is a polished highlight at the joint of each individual link where the Maltese cross motif is most evident, and then on the tops all satin finished. Moving down, it's a double deployant that nicely contours to fit the underside of the wrist in its shape. When closed, it's low in profile and held securely by twin trigger release, so not friction fit, not a cheap clamshell. It can't accidentally pop open. You must release both, and as you might expect at this price point from this brand, everything is finished inside the clasp. Now the watch also features something that I absolutely loved about previous generations of the Overseas: screws to remove every individual link, and this on both sides of the bracelet. So not pins and sleeves like the Nautilus, and every individual link removable. Beautifully finished, beautifully engineered. Now the watch features a case that's instantly familiar, but bigger and broader. The Overseas has grown spectacularly since its first generation, while remaining an ergonomic dream. What you feel more than the size of this latest version is the solidity of it. It's on par with the second generation. I'm not sure if it surpasses it, but on the wrist, it's every inch the equal of something like an Audemars Piguet 15400 or a 5711 1A Nautilus. You'll also note the use of contrasting surface finishing, polished on its flanks, satin finished on the hoods with a transitional bevel, nicely tapered as it approaches both the edge of the lug and the mid case. You can see a combination of polish and satin finish on the bezel, as the intermediate positions that are recessed are vertically satin finished and the outers are all with high polish. Beautiful finishing continues on the dial, where you have a series of translucent sapphire rings that frame a beautifully cut center dial with straight-grained metallic finish. And you can see you're looking at essentially a projection of the globe from overhead. Now, the index for the world time is located at 6 o'clock. Many folks have asked me, and I'm happy to say that, yeah, it's right where the arrow is. That's how you remember. So all of you folks who have asked, I've answered. Look for the arrow, and you can't go wrong. Now, as you can see, right now I am effectively in Dubai. And in Dubai, it's approaching 6:20. So you can see right next to Dubai, outboard is 18, and we're getting past 18. So we are past 6 p.m., not 6 a.m. You'll also note the different shading of the 24-hour ring, gray and black to distinguish between night and day. And then you'll note considerably more cities representing the world's distinct time zones than you'll find on a traditional 24-hour world time. I actually have a traditional 24-hour world time right here, so you can get a look. This is the Joules LeCoultre Master Compressor Extreme World Alarm. 24 cities for the 24 principal time zones is old school. That's the Louis Cotier system that's been around since the 1930s. Vacheron, it should be mentioned, was one of the first customers of that system. This one improves on that. As you make the adjustments, and adjustments are made through the crown, all adjustments are through the crown alone, you will see that the hour and minute hand will jump erratically. As you can see, there are several different colors for the cities. You have a sort of yellow, beige, and white, and the yellow beige represents unusual time zones. So if you pull the crown out to the intermediate stop, you'll note that, I don't know if you can hear what I can hear, but the minute hand and the hour hand jump at irregular intervals to represent the different time zones and their different time differences in relation to each other. Now you pull the crown out all the way, and then you can make adjustments to the time independent of the city rings. Now you're not moving the city ring anymore. You'll also note it features hacking seconds, so though we are dealing with large swaths of the world and large units of time, you can also set the watch precisely to the second. Now, we've gained a considerable amount of technical sophistication with those 37 time zones and a mechanism to keep track of all of them. Nevertheless, we haven't given up anything in durability, and that in spite of the addition of the overseas first ever display caseback, the better to showcase a manufacturer movement. Now this is the caliber 2460 from the 2450 family that's been around since the mid-2000s. This is the 2460 WT for world time. 40-hour power reserve, Geneva hallmark finishing, and engraved 22-karat gold mass at center with ceramic rotor bearings for efficient winding. Of course, it has the hacking seconds function you saw, adjustability for the 37 individual time zones. It's a robust caliber for most applications. It's not quite as tough as the 5100 and the 5200 that debuted in the third generation overseas, but then again it has a capability to give you a world time functionality in an out-and-out steel sports watch, something you will not find an equivalent of within the Patek or Audemars Piguet lines. Now the watch also features 150-meter water resistance to show you Vacheron is serious about this watch's sporting intent. It also features resistance to magnetism up to 25,000 ampere per meter. Remember, the ISO definition of an anti-magnetic watch is 4,800 ampere per meter, so we're not talking a cursory anti-magnetism here. It is substantial. How is that achieved with a solid caseback? Or I should say a display caseback rather than a solid one? Well, there is a paramagnetic ring around the movement, and because it is paramagnetic, it draws magnetic field to it. So it bends magnetic fields and magnetic flux densities of magnetic sources around the movement. Rather than shielding, what it does is it bends the fields around the caliber, and that's how you have both anti-magnetism and a display caseback to appreciate that Geneva seal finish. Now it's 27 joules, beautifully executed, though the most prominent feature is the engraved rotor. I assure you there is a perfectly aligned Côte de Genève on the bridges. All screws have black polished heads. Every edge of a bridge or cock features a mirrored rounded hand-laid angulage. And of course, the Geneva hallmark is now a whole watch standard, which is why you will also note the Poinçon de Genève on the case back itself, as the standard applies not just to the movement and its finishing and precision, but to the entirety of the dial, the case, and the assembled watch. This is a watch that brings a lot of capability. A bewildering amount for those who perhaps just want their steel sports watch to tell them the time and maybe the date. But the bottom line is Vacheron wanted to pave new road, break new ground, essentially create a new path in the haute de gamme sports watch segment. And what Patek and Audemars Piguet have not been doing, Vacheron has done, and for good measure, done in a fashion that no one else, save perhaps Glasuta Original with the Sender Cosmopolite, is even attempting. See this unique combination of world time and haute de gamme sports watch and buy it on our website.